Yes, that which we all love. Who should Westbrook be pushing more? Is it Anthony Davis or is it Westbrook?
I think he can do both. I don't know why. Look, Russell Westbrook is the ultimate competitor. By the way, Russell Westbrook did call Anthony Davis the ultimate weapon, Stephen A. Right? And let's talk about what happened to AD last year. Missed 36 games due to injuries. But I want you to know something about AD. AD has a talent to be one of the best to ever do it.
Yes.
But last year, career low in rebounds, fewest blocks, field goal percentage, and free throw line percentage. 21.8 points per game marked his lowest scoring average since his second year in the league.
Yep.
So if there's a reason why you're bringing Russ over to this team, yes, because of his pace, because of his aggression in which he can play, but also because of that mentality. And now what LeBron James has in his back pocket, instead of LeBron James always having to be that cop to try to push AD, or when he's not around to get AD to see the bigger picture, now you have guys like Russell Westbrook. Now you guys have like Rondo. I'm not taking any accountability away from Russell Westbrook for Russell Westbrook because he does have accountability for that. But I like the leadership and that mentality he brings to this team.
I have no problem with it, but I think that Russell Westbrook is a plus, not a minus, and I applaud his mentality. I love his fire. Y'all know that. What I would tell you is that the focus right now has to be on Anthony Davis in this regard. Russell Westbrook talked about it, and maybe it was because it was a question thrown to him by the media, and we understand that. Anthony Davis has literally had about 50 injuries in his career. 50. Anthony Davis has missed about 155 games in his career. Where I stand is that somewhere along the line, when Russell Westbrook talks about him turning it up, Anthony Davis had to acknowledge that's something you didn't do in the past. And that's where we get to Anthony Davis. What possible excuse could you have? What did I say last year? When I was concerned about the Lakers, they were walking around town because, as you know, I do get to L.A.
Quite often these days,
okay?
We know. You're bi-coastal. You're fancy. We know.
I do get to L.A.
Everyone, Stephen A. has multiple homes. We know.
No. I'm just saying, all I'm saying, I ain't going all that. I'm just telling you I frequent L.A.
Oh,
and I love it. I mean, I play the song I Love L.A. every morning. I mean, I just do.
Geez.
Okay, here's the deal. You won the title. What were you doing in the offseason? You see, at moments like this, as critical as we can be of LeBron James from time to time, this is when we need to step back and pay homage to LeBron. This is why he's on the Mount Rushmore, to the Kobe's, to the MJs, or whatever. They're the marquee. They're the headline. And there's an innate internal responsibility that they feel to answer the call. So it's not just about my ability. It's about making sure that I'm in shape. It's about making sure that I maximize my potential and that I'm ready for all comers as an individual because everyone's looking at me. And my response to that is, how could you have a teammate like LeBron that just helped deliver you your first title ever? And I'm not insulting Anthony Davis. I'm asking a question because it's something that I would ask him to his face. If you didn't do all you could physically to have yourself in peak condition, how could you allow that to happen to you when you know you playing with a champion? You playing with a guy that the bullseye is perpetually on his back. How could you have that slippage? And so it's great that Russell Westbrook is there. Russell Westbrook's chasing the ring too now. But we've never looked at Russell Westbrook and said durability is an issue, conditioning's an issue. Only time we ever question Russell Westbrook's conditioning in his career is when the brother came down with COVID.
I agree with you. I say I agree with you to an extent.
Okay.
But I do want to provide you some cover on this.
Please.
The last 2 seasons have been condensed seasons, and they've been quick turnarounds.
Okay.
So for AD's body, I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Some of the things that I've heard about training and taking that seriously in the offseason, putting on that flexibility, that weight, body muscle-wise. But there is something to be said about playing the amount of games they played in those condensed times and the time they've had off in between.
You know what? And I'll throw this back at you. I know LeBron is a freak of nature.
Yeah.
But I would be pretty embarrassed if a dude that is older than me is consistently in better shape than me when we have the same profession. That would bother me.
Well, a lot of that's luck, though, Stephen A. too now.
Again, I'm not talking, injuries happen. I'm talking about conditioning. I'm talking about you roll up in and you ready Last year, you know he wasn't. You covered the NBA. You know he
I
wasn't
hear-
ready at the start. And that's on him. And I love Anthony Davis. Love Anthony Davis. He's one. I think Anthony Davis has the potential to be, he is one of the all-time greats. He truly is. And he's a great player, great guy. All I'm trying to say is that you got to know when LeBron James is your teammate, that brother is likely going to need you as the season wanes because he's expecting to go deep in the playoffs. You got to be ready, man. You got to be ready. And last year, a few Lakers were not ready.
Agreed. I agree with you on
And
that.
that is inexcusable when LeBron James is your teammate because if nothing else, physically, that brother is going to be ready.
Was an all-time high in injuries last season for a lot of players. That's all.
Okay.
I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Okay. I'm not talking about this last year.
No.
That's what
And
I'm-
You're saying
LeBron,
overtime. I'm with-
talked
okay.
about that too, the short offseason. You're 100% right. Warriors at Lakers.
Obviously, he's the one person that draws those comparisons. What ultimately comes up short is the level of fear that was instilled in you. You didn't mess with MJ. You didn't come at MJ like that. You didn't do stuff like that. People, and I'm not talking about Isaiah Stewart, I'm just talking about period in terms of opponents and how they come at you. You believe that you wondered what you was going to do about this. With LeBron, you believe you can take him. You believe he can be had, whether it's because of the teammates around him, the system he's playing in, the people that, whatever skill set you bring to the table, et cetera, you just view him differently. And throughout the years in covering the league, those are all the things that I've consistently heard. Now, obviously, he would refute that. There's players that would refute that who have been supportive of him. Rich Paul and Maverick Carter definitely would refute that because I've spoken to them about it in the past. But again, he is profoundly respected. This is not an issue about respect for LeBron. I'm talking fear factor. Fear factor. That's just not something that has ever been associated with him.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Go ahead, man.
There's a lot to unpack there.
That's why you're here.
First of all, two of the guys you brought up in that conversation,
Yes.
Kobe
Yeah.
got two-piece by Chris Childs.
Yes, Chris Childs.
Michael Jordan got the hell beat out of him for years by the Detroit Pistons. So they challenged him physically. To say that LeBron, who's won 4 championships,
Yep.
multiple league MVPs, made the finals 8 straight years,
Right.
to say he's not feared by players?
Not feared.
I don't know whether to believe that you believe what you're saying.
I do believe
that's
what you said.
that's crazy.
Well, it's not crazy. It's not.
That's crazy.
It's not crazy, and you know better. You know better.
When-
You've been in the. You've
But
been.
hold
in
on.
the
But
league, you know,
when has there been a situation? If you're talking physical confrontation,
No, I'm not. Listen.
physical confrontation.
Listen. Well,
If that's what you're referring to,
I'm not-
nobody's
I'm-
ever
I'm-
challenged LeBron like that. Why would they?
Nobody could challenge him. I
Exactly.
forgot who it was, the center that played for the Chicago Bulls when he shoved LeBron to the ground, pushed him to the floor when he was in Miami. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying to you is this: if you watch the game, which you do, and you
I
report
played the game,
and-
but I played the game,
I know,
Stephen A.
that's
And I
right.
played against LeBron in the playoffs.
Okay.
And I've played against LeBron. I played against LeBron for 15 years.
You fear what he can do. Listen, you fear what he can do to you on the basketball court because nobody could ever question the greatness of LeBron James. But what I am trying to say to you is that you look at him, there's certain things with MJ in the era that he was in. I've spoken to Isaiah, I've spoken to Dr. J, I've spoken to Kareem, I've spoken to Magic, I've spoken to other folks. There's a culture that existed in the 80s, into the 90s, into the 2000s, or what have you. When you look at LeBron and you compare him to some of the preeminent superstars that have played this game, when it comes to fear, that's one of the differences.
Do you mean
that
because LeBron's more accessible, like in terms
It
of
could
the
be.
personality,
It could
and
be.
where
It could
MJ
be.
wasn't like one of the buddy guys?
That could be.
or,
That could
or
have a lot.
Kobe?
That could have a lot to do with it. What I'm saying is, we're talking about the greatest player who ever played the game, which I believe to be Michael Jordan. And a lot of times, when you delineate the difference between the two, whether it's Michael Jordan or it's LeBron James, they're talking about a fear factor. There's just certain things you knew that you wasn't going to do to MJ. You could come to MJ on the court. But the things that people have done, the way that they've talked about LeBron James, the way that they've come behind him in the media, behind his back and stuff like that, you hear stuff 30 years later about MJ. A lot of times you didn't hear that kind of stuff going on because there was a level of respect and fear that LeBron, I shouldn't say respect because LeBron
Stephen A.
has always been
Stephen
respected.
A.
But
Stephen A.
yes.
Stephen A.
Yes.
Hold on a second. LeBron has grown up in a completely different world
I agree.
that existed in the 80s and 90s. There was no first take in the 90s. Could you imagine in the New York Knicks series, LeBron or MJ going to Atlantic City the day before the game and coming home at 2 a.m. Social media, this show, it's all you would talk about for days.
No.
For days.
No.
Yes, it would be.
No, not on this show. Not on this show. Because as far as I'm concerned, listen, let me tell you what I said back there. Because I'm glad you brought that up. Michael Jordan went out and gambled, right? And Michael Jordan, hypothetically, I guess it was in the millions or whatever he might have lost. My response was, you have any idea how much money Michael Jordan's worth? What do you care? Mind your business.
But what does
It's all
this
right.
have to do with
No,
fear?
no,
What
no.
does it have to
I'm
do
just
with
bringing you
fearing
brought up
someone?
Atlantic City. I'm saying the point that I'm trying to make.
The reason people talk about LeBron, though, is because he lives in a 24/7 news
They would have
cycle
talked about
all
anybody,
the time.
and
all the time.
it would have been just as bad, if not worse, for MJ, no doubt about it. But I'm talking to you about respect and fear. There's no question. We ain't talking about respect for LeBron.
And I'm
James.
disagreeing
We know
with
that.
you completely.
And so you're
I'm
saying,
disagreeing.
so
There's
you're
no
saying,
credence to
completely.
Stephen
so
A's
you're
argument,
saying,
JJ.
so you're saying that the people like that, the fear that Michael Jordan instilled in people, that's what LeBron did?
Yes.
Okay.
In a different way. I mean,
Okay.
like
Okay.
you're
Okay.
you're
Because
comparing two different things.
Well,
To
that's
say
what-
that his peers don't fear him,
Fear.
opposing coaches don't fear him.
Fear.
Do
Listen.
you think people want to go into a playoff series against LeBron?
No, I'm not talking about basketball. I'm not talking about basketball. On the court, I'm acknowledging his greatness. What I'm saying to you, the way people talk about him, the way they look to attack him, and I'm talking about contemporaries in the National Basketball Association. I'm not talking about his performance on the court. That's not what I'm saying. And by the way,
Who's attacking LeBron? Who's attacking
what do you mean?
LeBron?
I'm talking